You do own Apple in some of these accounts, so total assets under management, it's 2 to 3%, and you've ridden it all the way down. Sold any of it yet?
We did not sell any of it yet, and I think that gets to the point of what Leslie was talking about, in that this announcement came after the end of the year. Even if you wanted to sell Apple at the end of the year, if you've been a long-term shareholder, you have significant gains. So you're unlikely to unload a whole lot in November or December of this year.
That's an interesting point. Nobody's doing this.
So, and we've owned it since 2005. Our cost basis is down in the single digits. So it makes it very hard to manage a position like that when you've had those kind of gains over time.
We said there are a lot of people, a lot of analysts saying it's not a surprise. You've been watching for 3 months. You've seen the suppliers. You've seen the company itself kind of telegraph the things as far as iPhone sales weren't going that great. I mean, that was the takeaway from the not giving guidance anymore with that. It's going to break below quite a bit now, actually 3 or 4 points below where it was on Christmas Eve. But there was something that knocked the stock down from 1.1 trillion to 750, 700. Now it's going to go under 700 today. So how much of this is sort of what was to be expected from what we had already seen, and how much is new information that was worse than people had thought, do you think?
Well, I think it's worse than people had thought, and I think that they had guided down their revenue. You saw Lumentum, who was the first break in all of this.
Who had guided down the revenue?
Apple had, right?
Apple
to 84.
That's what they did last night. In the last quarter, prior to that, they hadn't guided down ever in 15 years, right?
Well, no, they guided down from where the street wanted them to be and what their quarterly was expected to be.
But stayed
in the last quarter. So it wasn't a warning, which they haven't done in 15 years. But it clearly was a sign to the street that things weren't as rosy as people were expecting. And then you had a series of suppliers that did the same thing, and the stock is down 30%. So it's hard to say that the street wasn't expecting this in some way, shape, or form. I just don't think we got clarity last night from Tim Cook that it is somehow over and that they see the end to this change, particularly in China.
So how much could be accounted?
Probably don't.
How much could be accounted for with China, and how much is problems with iPhone upgrade cycles not being what they used to be?
I would argue that it's probably more a problem with the iPhone upgrade cycles. Now, the problem with an iPhone upgrade cycle, you go from 24 months to 35 months, is a problem for Apple on new phone sales, but it maintains that install base. So this isn't a situation like perhaps we had with BlackBerry or we've had with Nokia in the past, where people stopped using somebody's product and there was a great big vacuum underneath it. This is really a change. Maybe it's akin to the change we saw in PCs when the refresh cycle was slower. But you're now looking a year, 18 months ahead to 5G. Really the next real change in cell phone technology, and we haven't had that.
Do you think that's why people are not buying and upgrading right now, or is it just that they don't want to pay $1,000 when their current phone still works?
I think that might be why people like us aren't upgrading yet, but I don't think the public yet really knows what 5G is and what's going to be. Right. So it'll probably, I think, actually be 6 months or 8 months before they start thinking, oh, I can get
5G's after 4G. We know what that is.
But
before 6, right?
If you're talking about this transition of the company and not really relying on handset sales, and then you look at services up by over 25% year over year, is that enough for you to say, okay, long term, I still really like this?
Yeah, long term, I still really like it. Long term, you see plenty of reasons for people to continue buying their products. And I'd make the argument, if it's a 3-year period where Apple is trying to extract $400 or $500 from you, that could be a subscription basis in the future.